Hello everybody and welcome back to a very special edition of JoEnglish. Today we have an only English episode with a very special guest. Now, this is my wife and she is going to introduce herself in just a moment. But what we're going to do today is respond to the questions that you asked us on my Facebook group and also on the YouTube channel. So I need to thank you all. We received literally hundreds, didn't we? Literally hundreds of questions. So we have chosen the most common questions that we're going to respond to. But I think we're also going to respond to a lot of other ones indirectly in our answers.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Now, one other thing. James was requested a lot for this video, wasn't he? Lots of people wanted James in it, so James is going to ask us the questions. But like I said, before we start, we need to have my wife introduce herself.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, of course.
I'm so honoured to be on this channel with all of you, and it's amazing to finally meet everybody. Well, I'll start from
your name. Start with your name.
It's a bit complicated, isn't it?
It is a bit complicated.
I'm Marielena Maggi, and I absolutely love my name. But
and there is a big but, because as you can imagine, Marielena is a little bit of a mouthful.
And actually, even Italian people get it wrong. In the sense it's always Maria Elena or Marilena or Marielena. It seems to be difficult to get Marielena.
Well, why are you called, explain, why are you called Marielena?
And that's why I love my name, actually. Marielena is the combination of two cultures, really, because my mum and dad really liked Elena. My mum especially, as my mum is Welsh, and Elena is a name which is easy in both languages, Italian and English.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, though...
Yeah, the problem was when because your mum moved to Puglia when in the early 70s, didn't she?
Yes.
And I don't think she realised at the time how strong traditions were.
Yes, certainly. So when my grandmother then came to visit my mum and myself in hospital when I was born, she was so happy and said, "Oh, Maria is born. Maria is reborn. I'm reborn," because my grandmother was called Maria, so my dad's mum. And so my mum had the idea to sort of mix the two names, the name she liked and my grandmother's name.
Because in British culture, it does happen occasionally, but it's not as common, is it?
No.
So your mum didn't want to let go of a name that she liked, but then she also wanted to honour the traditions a bit, didn't she, of southern Italy?
And I like the fact it's become one word. It's not Maria Elena, but it's Maria Elena. Anyway, well...
But then also, just to complicate things further, in Britain, she's not known as Marielena.
No. And that's my sister's fault. My sister Alessandra, when she's 4 years younger than me, and she couldn't pronounce my name. And so she came up with Pa. She started calling me Pa, which then evolved to Pammy. And now everybody, well, family and friends really, know me as Pammy, which is, I suppose, easier and quicker to pronounce. And I'm only referred to as Marielena if I'm in trouble or in very formal situations.
So, yeah, when she said at the beginning it's a complicated name, it doesn't even stop there, because then we've got the surname as well.
Yeah. Well, until I married Joe, I was Marielena Maggi. And so on my Italian passport, I'm Marielena Maggi. And but on my British passport, I'm Marielena Sanders, as when you get married in Britain, you totally lose your maiden name. And
not so much anymore. There are more people keeping it now. But when we got married nearly 15 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, again, tradition really, in Britain, you do lose. And A lot of people say, "Oh, why should you lose your identity? Why should you lose your name?" I don't see it as losing your identity.
Exactly.
It's sort of
it's more of a problem when we fly back to England, because we need to remember what name we've booked under. Because if we write Marielena Maggi, we need to remember her Italian passport. If we write Marielena Sanders, we need to remember her British passport. So it's only there that it can get a little bit complicated.
But yes.
Yeah. Good. Right. Well, there we are. That's quite a long introduction as well. You've got a very complicated name, haven't you? Very complicated.
Like a secret spy.
Yeah, exactly.
Lots of different identities.
Right. So, like I said, today we're now going to answer some of your questions, and we're like we're doing now. We're having a natural conversation.
Am I allowed to drink my tea?
You are allowed to drink your tea.
In my special mug that my parents-in-law gave me.
Yeah, you are allowed.
Written on it.
And just remember, if you're having difficulty understanding, put the subtitles on, and also let us know in the comments as well how you're finding this, okay? So, now we need James with the first question.
Number 1. How did you meet?
Okay, so the first question, where did we meet? Do you want to start with that one?
Okay, I'll start with that one. We met at university. We were both students at Lampeter University, which is the smallest university on the planet, I would say.
I think it's officially, when we went there, it was officially the smallest university in Europe, but it was the 4th oldest. It's got a very long history. It's the 4th oldest in Britain. Only Oxbridge, and Oxbridge is what we say for Oxford and Cambridge, and St Andrews in Scotland are older. So it's a very old historic university, but it's in a really tiny town, isn't it?
It is. It's a lovely, lovely, lovely place in the middle of Wales, and
because neither of us are city people, really, are we? We both prefer the countryside a bit, so that's where we met. But the strange thing was, it being so small, usually, you get to know everyone, at least recognise everyone.
And I used to work in a little coffee shop in town called Conti's. And a lot of students and local people used to go there. So you used to sort of meet everybody.
Yeah.
And
even if you didn't know them, you recognised them.
Yes.
And the weird thing was, we didn't meet until the last term of our last year. Exactly.
Yeah.
I just got back from Australia, hadn't I?
Yeah.
And I was going out with my friends as like a welcome home thing.
Yeah.
And
I used to live, at the time, I used to share a flat with my friend Joanna. And she used to know Joe. And that particular evening, I wasn't going to go out. We used to go to the Union, which is the bar, the university bar for students. And she said, "Oh, come on, come out. My friend Joe's coming back from Australia, and, there'd be loads of people out." And
lucky you came out.
Well, depends. No. But,
So that's how we met, basically. At university, and what year was it? 2003?
You can't remember?
No, it was 2003. Of course I can remember. What month? Oh, you always ask me this. January. Yes. Good. See, I do know. Okay, perfect. Right. Now let's have question number 2.
Number 2. What language do you speak at home?
Okay, so what language do we speak at home?
I think we speak our own language, really. It's a bit of a mixture between Italian and English.
To be honest, we between us would speak 95% of the time in English. I think that's only because when we first met, I spoke no Italian, so we just got used to speaking in English. And I think even with the boys, I speak more
it's
in
mainly English at home, English.
Depends how angry you get.
If I get angry, I switch to Italian, I think. And if you're in trouble, I switch to Italian. But no, it's mainly English.
Yeah.
I must admit, as I'm bilingual, I was brought up bilingual. As I said, my mum is Welsh, my dad's Italian. And
to you, it doesn't make any difference, does it?
And I often would start a sentence in English and then finish it in Italian, or have a few words.
And that's what the boys do as well, no, isn't it?
Do.
Sometimes James already there speaking, and suddenly they'll be speaking in Italian and putting a word in English, or
Yeah.
vice versa. So just a bit of both, really, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Okay,
It's
good. Right, shall we move on to question number 3?
yep.
Number 3. How did you speak to the boys when they were younger?
We spoke baby language.
Baby language, yeah.
I did, at least, because I personally, when they were younger, I used to speak to them in English, and I think simply because I was used to my mum speaking in English to me as a baby, and so I found it.
But we didn't have any
set rules.
I can remember, for example, when Pammy's mum was bringing Pammy and her brother and sister up, the doctor years ago would say you must only speak in one language and then speak in another language. And my mother-in-law thought that was complete rubbish and didn't do it. And that, obviously, research has proved now that children can learn up to 4 languages at the same time. So we never had, right, you speak in English, I'll speak in Italian, or today we speak this, today we speak that. We've just spoken naturally from day one. So naturally English is, for me and for you, it's been a complete mix, isn't it? Yeah. So that's why I think the boys
I think we were conscious of the fact that they were in Italian schools and in an Italian environment. So it was important that we spoke in English at home, really.
Exactly.
But as you said, it's then what's natural to us is.
But we didn't follow any method, any technique. We just spoke naturally. Children. If you have young children and you're in a bilingual, trilingual family, just speak and don't worry about it. They'll pick it up.
They do. They certainly do.
Yeah.
Reading is really useful. We always used to read English picture books to the children before going to bed.
And anyone can do that. You don't need to be native speaker to do that. That's a really good thing for you to do at home, don't you think?
Or audiobooks, kids' audiobooks as well.
Yeah.
That was good.
Excellent. Okay. Question number 4, I think we need now, don't we?
4.
Number 4. Why do you live in Italy and not in Britain?
Now, this is a difficult question. Why do we live in Italy and not in Britain? It all started, we were working in Oxford after we'd done our teacher training there, and we were working as teachers. And then Pammy fell pregnant, and we just thought, if we don't go now, we probably
It would have
never
been
will.
difficult to move.
Exactly. So I think we didn't have any ties, and by ties I mean we didn't have a mortgage. We didn't have any
we
financial.
were just renting at the time, and it just felt the right thing to do, didn't it?
It was an easy option in the sense that we could give it a go. If it didn't work, we could always go back to Britain and become teachers. So, but having lived here, I think it was the best move we've ever done, especially from a language point of view, because I think if we had stayed in Britain, I would never have learnt Italian.
No.
I'm not a linguist.
When we were there, Joe used to, there were evening classes, and I used to teach in the room next door and Italian, and Joe was in the classroom next door. And
I did about 5 lessons. It's not as if I did this full-on course. I did about 5
But we
lessons.
always used to end up arguing. I just had no patience in teaching you Italian, did I? It was awful. And you really tried hard. And the thing I like most is my mother-in-law, when we announced we were getting married, she and her mum, so Joe's gran,
who's 94,
decided to enroll in an Italian course because she said, I don't want to go to my son's wedding in Italy and not understand what's happening. And I thought that was such a sweet thing to do.
But I mean, it was
Italian,
nice, wasn't it?
Yeah, and your mum has learned better Italian than you did at the time. But I mean,
no, I know.
If you hadn't moved to Italy, there's no way you would have learned Italian.
True. That's true, definitely. But from a point of view of the boys, I mean, growing up in Puglia, it's amazing. The summers, the things, the food. I mean, we can't complain about the future. Who knows what the future holds? We never say never. Nope. I never say we're definitely going to be here or there in 5 years' time, but I definitely haven't regretted anything about moving here.
No, it's been good.
Excellent. Right, the last question.
Number 5. Did Mum help you learn Italian?
Right. Did you help me learn Italian? I'm going to say yes and no, okay? Because the strange thing is, if you put her in a class of 33-year-olds and she needs to teach them English, she has the patience of a saint.
I love teaching 3-year-olds, but I don't love teaching you.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Give her 10 minutes with me and she loses her patience immediately. So I don't think you did help me, and this is strange, directly no, but indirectly yes, because I always...
was harsh to be nice, wasn't I?
You were. Cruel to be kind, weren't you? Because at the beginning, I would hide behind Pammy and her Italian when we first moved here. And then in the end, she said, no, do it yourself.
It's because if I would phone somebody up or translate for him, and then he would get angry with, oh, no, but I said to say this or said to do, and I said, well, do it yourself,
exactly.
you know. Well, my mum was a lot more patient than I was.
Yeah.
Whenever we'd have lunch with them when we first moved back, she would always force you to ask in Italian for mi passi l'acqua per piacere.
Yeah, she'd make me use Italian, but she'd also help me to learn it. She'd teach me how to say it, whereas over here had no patience whatsoever. But like I said, indirectly she did help me because she just said, I'm not helping you anymore. So I had to start speaking. I had to start learning. And that, to be honest, was probably the best thing. It was. I do think that. I do think. But so the answer to that question is yes and no at the same time. Right. So there we are. I hope you found this useful. Like I said, this was a completely natural conversation in English. So please let us know how much you understood, if you found it interesting, because this is something we could do once a month, maybe regularly, just on different topics that you suggest, isn't it? Just so you can hear natural conversation. So thank you very much for watching, and thank you for coming on, because it's taken me over a year to get her on the channel because she doesn't like being in front of a camera. But thank you very much for coming. And
Thank you for having me, and it's been lovely.
Good.
See you soon.
Take care. See you soon.
Bye.
Goodbye.